I'm Lorraine. I'm the host for today's speaker, and I'm very glad to be able to have negotiated her here for this morning. Barbara Markoff has been involved with and is here to represent the Quaker Friends Legislative Advocacy Group. So she'll tell us today how they meet with and connect with the representatives in Madison. So, thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. So, I want to start out with a question, and raise your hand for whichever ones of these are things you do. How many of you write emails to your members of Congress? Say a show of hands. Okay. How many of you call, like to the president or to any members of Congress? How many of you have made calls? How many of you have participated in rallies? Wow, now that's really, for those in front, almost everyone raised their hand. Or any kind of protest movement, civil disobedience, more hands, not civil, but that's okay. All right, so I am with a company. I'm with people who already are very attuned to the importance of doing something. I'll use the generic term. I think most of us in this room are already activists. What I'm here to talk about today is I want to entice you to the idea of adding one more tool to your activism toolkit. And that would be being an advocate and doing lobbying with your members of Congress. I have two homes, two spiritual homes. I'm Jewish, and I attend Quaker meeting for a very long time. One of the things that Quaker meeting has brought into my life is the National Friends Committee on National Legislation. We call it FCNL for short. They were formed in Washington, D.C. in 1943 by Quakers. They are now the largest nonpartisan advocacy organization, faith-based, but nonpartisan in the country. They have paid lobbyists that lobby on the areas that we would all be concerned about: peace, justice, and environmental sustainability. So they have all these paid lobbyists in Washington, and they actually office across the street from the Senate. So they have a complete presence, and they've been operating since the 40s. About 8 years ago, they came up with the idea, in addition to having paid lobbyists that go to every member of Congress on pieces of legislation that are of concern regarding peace, justice, environment, why not create teams around the country that would lobby locally while they're lobbying nationally? And that's what they did. About 8 years ago, they started to form advocacy teams. And I am a member of the Milwaukee FCNL local advocacy team. And I'm the facilitator of the team right now. I've been on the team for about 4 years. And the team is not just Quakers, so the team is just very diverse. On the team are people who are already seasoned activists. There's a Steve Watchus, I don't know if you know him. You do, nods of head. Steve is on the team. Steve is the president of the UNA chapter. And Steve has many more talents and skills, but Steve's on our team. And others like him. Pam Richard is the key staff person for Peace Action Wisconsin. She's on the team. So my hope today is when I get done telling you about the team, what we do and how we do it, some of you might be interested enough to want to join the team. And it's not a heavy lift because we meet virtually once a month. So I'll get to that. So anyway, that's why I'm here. I like to start out, I'm here unabashedly, hoping to recruit at least a few of you, or those at home on Zoom. The invitation is all over to anyone who's listening. So again, I've told you about what FCNL is, and the team in Milwaukee formed, as I say, about 8 years ago, one of the first teams in the country. There are now 140 teams throughout the country. and they're in 47 states. We're trying to get to all 50 states. But right now, that's a pretty big reach, which means some of the states that are bigger have multiple teams. We do in Wisconsin. We have a team in Racine, we have a team in Madison, and then this team in Milwaukee that I'm recruiting for. But I'm also recruiting for the Racine team because I'm wondering if some of the UU members that come here are in the Racine area. So I don't know. But anyway, I'm recruiting for any of the teams, Madison, Milwaukee, or Racine, but specifically the Milwaukee team right now. So how do we work? It's a really cool thing because the way we work is the national office selects one topic each year that will be the focus of all the teams all over the country for the whole year. And I'll give you an example of topics over the last 3 years, and then I'll tell you what our topic is this year. One year when I first started was the AUMFs, to try to get, okay, so that stands for Authorized Use of Military Force, AUMF. For years, presidents have had the right to actually go in and get involved in a war without the consent of Congress. This is very wrong. And so for a year, we focused on legislation, and we felt we were so close, but it did not end up passing. Because what happens in Congress, as we all know, there may be a piece of legislation that we really care about, but it doesn't rise to the top. It just doesn't grab their attention, or there just isn't enough across the aisle support for it. But the way FCNL works, and the way we work as a local team, is we focus on a topic that is current and important, and that there's a piece of legislation connected to it that we can lobby on. You really can't successfully lobby on just a broad issue like ending world hunger. You just can't do it. When you go into a representative's office, whether it's Senate or Congress or a congressional member, representative, you're not effective if you're just there to put forth your emotional concerns. Where you can be effective is if you're asking them to support or get behind or co-sponsor a piece of legislation. That's why the name of this group is Friends Committee on National Legislation. So one year it was the AUMS to try to get passed legislation where the president would have to get the consent of Congress. Another one that we focused on was ending the US support for the war in Yemen. I don't know if you recall, I'm sure your hearts have been touched. Up until recently, Yemen was the worst humanitarian disaster in the world. Now, sadly, there's others that are taking that place. But for a year, we tried to get legislation to stop refueling the Saudi the aircraft, infusing money into that war. Again, we didn't succeed. And I'll talk about that in a moment, because you're going to hear a number of we didn't succeed. But on one level, we do succeed every year, and I'll explain that. So that was the second one. Let's see, I had a third one I was going to tell you about. Oh, last year was to get Congress to allocate more money to peace-building funds. You know, we allocate almost $1 trillion to our military budget, and that's going to support war efforts. We tried to get Congress to increase 3 funds, and I won't mention them, but they're through the USAID. And those are funds to prevent genocide, to promote reconciliation after conflicts. We had 3 funds. We went into our congressional offices with jelly bean jars to show how much money goes to the military to fight wars and how teeny goes to peace building. And that was our focus last year. The good news is, when the budgets were all being decreased, they did not decrease those 3 budgets. We considered that a win, even though we were trying to get them to increase those funds, because they're like just a handful of millions of dollars to try to prevent war and to reconcile. But nonetheless, we at least through our legislative victory got them to keep the funding as it was. Sorry, I have to leave the picture because my thing slides down here. So let me tell you what the win is every year, even if we don't succeed at the legislative topic that we're going into lobby for. We believe, and this is why I want to entice you to want to become lobbyists and join us. We believe that we're in it for the long haul. We're not visiting Ron Johnson and Tammy Baldwin, our senators, and in our case, Gwen Moore, our congressional representative for District 4. We're not visiting them because we know we're going to get their agreement to what we're lobbying on. But what we're trying to do is create a long-term relationship. And believe it or not, even though, I mean, we've got, out of 8 congressional representatives in the state, only 2 of them are very liberal. We've got Markoff in the Madison area, we've got Gwen Moore in the Milwaukee area. The rest are very conservative. And in fact, you know, trying very hard. They're up for re-election this year, so anyway, I'll leave that one go. But anyway, some people don't want to lobby them because they say, why bother? They're not going to agree to this. And it's true. We do have a lot of evidence that they don't always agree to the more, shall we say, humane pieces of legislation that we put forth to them. But every now and then we have wins. We had one win with Sensenbrenner. And across the country, we learn of wins with very, very conservative members of Congress. How do we get those wins? One of the ways is we try to establish a connection with their staff members. Because rarely, I will admit this, rarely when we have these lobby visits, and they're by Zoom, by the way, the Senate ones are all by Zoom, because we are trying to, we get one person who's involved with FCNL from each district. Think how powerful that is when the member of Congress or the staff person sees on the Zoom window, because what we do is we rename ourselves when we do the Zoom lobby visits. District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When they see at least 6 out of the 8 districts represented, they get a sense that this is important throughout the state. So what we do though in these lobby visits is we try to find out more about the staff person that we all can meet with, where they went to school, where they go to, what their faith, anything about their family. And many times, one of the members of our team connects with something in that staff person's life, and then we've got a relationship. Now our big hope is, especially with, well, what we always hope is that the staff person takes our message to the member of Congress. Now Gwen Moore will meet with us in person, or on Zoom occasionally, and Tammy Baldwin has dropped in. Ron Johnson has not dropped in. But Tom Petri, his key foreign policy aide, he loves to meet with us. We don't know if he ever tells Ron Johnson what we're asking for, but he still loves to meet with us, and we're grateful for that. So what I'm saying is the win sometimes is maintaining a relationship because they keep being willing to set up these lobby visits. So this is what it would look like. If you were to sign your name, because I've got a sign-in sheet, in case you're interested to experience a meeting and see how it operates. I do have a sign-in sheet and I have a couple handouts there, which I'll mention. What it would be is the first Wednesday of every month, 7 o'clock our time, there is what we call a national call. The national office puts on a 1-hour call. We Zoom in. There's often between 250 and 300 team members like myself from all over the country. And we get to hear about the topic of that year. They bring in experts from Congress, from Senate offices to give us tips on how to influence their members of Congress. So for 1 hour, and then we hear stories about how various teams around the country have either had success getting their member of Congress to co-sponsor the legislation, or some of their challenges and how they overcame them. I will give you one example. We were never, in addition to the lobby visits, we try to write letters to the editor and get them published in the Journal Sentinel. Not an easy task. Why? Partly because they no longer publish many. And I'll tell you why I know. So here we were, all last year, we did not have one of our letters to the editor on the topic of peace building funds. Never got published. So I learned that James Fitzhenry was a new top editor for the ideas page for the Journal Sentinel. I called him, or I emailed him. He agreed to meet with a couple of us in person. So we met at a cafe. We talked about what we were up to. We mentioned that we had never been, none of our letters, which are short, had been published. He explained why. People are not reading the ideas page that much anymore. More people are consuming their opinion pieces on social media. So they've cut it down. If you look at the ideas page, either digitally or in the paper, you might see 5 at the most. There used to be many, many more. So ours never got selected, but what did he do? He offered us an op-ed opportunity, and we wrote it, and he published it on those peace building funds. So that's, so I got to share that on a national call, so that my colleagues around the country might think, okay, if you're having trouble getting published, go right to the head person and make an appeal, explain to them that what you're about and why you wish they would at least consider publishing you sometimes. So that was a success here in Milwaukee. So let's just say you are interested based on what I'm sharing today. As I said, the first Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock to 8 on Zoom, there's a national call. You come and you learn, you hear examples around the country. Then, at a separate 1-hour time, Milwaukee has a local meeting the week after to talk about, okay, now that we've heard all that, what are we going to do this month? Who are we going to lobby? Should we lobby Glenn Moore again? Excuse me. Should we lobby Gwen Moore? Should we do another Ron Johnson visit? So actually, what's coming up in October is the Madison team is the one that's setting up a Tom Petri visit that, will be Ron Johnson. So what we do when we have a Senate visit, we offer all the advocates, the FCNL advocate volunteers like me, from around the state, so that we all get onto that Zoom, and then we put our congressional, so they see we're all there. For the congressional reps, like Racine, they go meet Representative Stiles' office in person, and they meet with his staff person. Madison meets with Mark Pocan in person. We now meet with Gwen Moore in person. So wherever we have access to a local office, we do the representatives in person. Obviously, for many years, we did them only by Zoom. So now the Zoom ones are the Senate ones, and the in-person. But what's really neat, what I want to offer you, in case you're sitting here thinking, I couldn't do that. I couldn't really talk to even a staff person. That's not where my comfort zone is. The way we do this is not everyone even gets to speak. We do a planning meeting, what we call a pre-planning meeting for every lobby visit. And only those that can come to the pre-planning meeting get a speaking role. And there's a set number of speaking roles, because our lobby visits are very structured. We start out with an introduction. We all quickly introduce ourselves. Why we're here. We ask for how long we have. We have 20 minutes, 30, an hour. So we know exactly how to organize or reorganize on the spot the lobby visit, depending on how much time. Then we do the ask. The ask is a very specific. Will Gwen Moore please support these 3 funds and encourage her colleagues in Congress to do the same? That's our ask. So we put that out front in the meeting. And then we thank that member of Congress or the staff person for something that member of Congress has done that we're appreciative of. In some cases, we really don't have any legislative thanks. so we'll just thank the member of Congress for letting us be a part. But we always work hard to figure out something to thank them for. And that's part of relationship building, looking for something positive to unite us and to create goodwill. So we intro, we also take a photo, a lobby visit photo, intro, the ask, the thank, and then we share stories. Because storytelling, as you know very well in this congregation, storytelling is done constantly in your service, in your worship. And I think we all know how effective it is. So we pre-plan who on the team is going to share a story for why that's so important. So for instance, one member of the Milwaukee team, her son is in the Air Force, and she tied in her feelings as a mother of a person in the military to why she felt these peace-building funds should be increased. A very heartfelt story. Stories should be no more than 90 seconds, 2 minutes at the most. We do 1 to 3 stories, depending on how much time they give us. And then we dialogue. So, and that's all quick. The part I've just mentioned is quick. And then we invite the staffer or the member of Congress to give us their input on what we're asking them to do. And sometimes they throw real obstacles. They really do. And we do our best. And sometimes we just have to say, you know what? We would love to get back to you because we're not sure about that. And we aren't always sure about the obstacle they throw at us. And then after that, we repeat our ask, we thank them, we tell them that we will have a follow-up email, and that's it. It goes from anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. And one person raises their hand to be the main facilitator, and they kind of make sure everybody's on cue for their part, and they're the ones that write the follow-up email. That is what a lobby visit looks like, whether it's in person or by Zoom. That's what it is. We invite people and actually want people to come, even if they're not going to speak, because the more people that join the Zoom or come sit in the conference room shows the importance of the topic. So that's what I want to say for those of you who think to yourself, oh, I could never do that. I'm not comfortable. I'm not the kind of person that would do that. Speak up. You don't have to. Just being there with your congressional district that you represent, that's enough. So that's what that looks like. I'm going to pause here and get some questions, and then I'm going to tell you about the topic that we're working on this year, which of course we only have a few more months. Yes, please, Bernice.
If you don't have a car, are the places that we go accessible by bus?
Yes, because they're downtown, they're where the congressional offices are. And we have really nice team members who are more than happy to pick you up. And again, most of our work, this is why I tell you it's not a heavy lift. You go to one national.
Make sure you repeat the question.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Because a lot of times it won't show up at home.
Great reminder, thank you. So the question was, if you don't have a car, are the places that we go accessible by public transportation? And again, my answer is they're all public because these are congressional offices downtown, bus service, and we have people that are willing to help drive. And the majority of our meetings are Zoom. The national call is Zoom. Our local meeting the week after, 1 hour, Zoom. Senate visits, lobby visits, Zoom. The only ones in person are the occasional local congressional reps. Yes, Terry.
Are the Wednesday night national calls recorded?
The question is, are the Wednesday national calls recorded? They absolutely are.
Because we've got another meeting.
Yeah, in fact, a couple of our team members can't go to those calls for the exact same reason, Steve being one of them. So yes, they are recorded, and the full entirety, yeah. Those are really important questions. Thank you for asking them. Yes,
Are you
Joanne?
doing anything as far as the present Israeli-Palestine situation?
Are we doing anything regarding the present Israeli-Palestinian situation? That's another important question. It's not our topic this year, and I'm going to tell you in a few minutes what our topic is this year. But during our lobby visits, we are not held to just the one ask for the piece of legislation. what we do toward the end of our meetings is leave time to put forth a strong appeal on other topics. So the Israel-Gaza topic has come up at most of our lobby visits. So the answer is, it's not, what we've learned from staff members, if you go into a lobby visit with a whole bunch of requests, like, you know, we want climate change legislation, stop Enbridge Line 5, increase peace building funds, if you go in, or stop sending weapons to Israel, if you go in with a whole, you really reduce your effectiveness. So we've learned there should be one main ask, but you could mention other things and ask for their feedback. So that's how I would answer that. I'm sorry, I don't see your name. Please.
I lost my name, Demetria. I'm wondering about how the topics are chosen, and then given the scope of the topics, why a year is the cycle versus, something that.
You know, the question is, how are the topics chosen? And given the scope of these topics, why just 1 year? I actually don't know why the 1 year, but I will tell you that as the topics from the past actually come into play legislatively, we're back at it. So even though they do choose a different topic each year, if something comes into play that we never finished, we go back with it. So that's important. The topic that we pick, and then I'm going to tell you this year's topic, is based on something that's current, something that we can possibly get agreement across the aisle on, and that can be hopefully voted on in the year. Those are some of the criteria. Partly because of me, I think, and other team members, we said to the national office, why aren't you involving the 140 teams around the country in selecting that topic? They had never done that. They were always just their own way, and then we were told what it was. But now they are tapping into us toward the end of the year, which I love that. Bruce, you had something? And
What's the topic this year?
Okay, the topic this year is what are called UPLs, unfunded priority lists. None of us knew what that was, and in fact, many members of Congress do not know what those are. Those are lists, and the military is the only agency of government that is required that above and beyond the defense budget that our Secretary of Defense presents to the administration, above and beyond that, every service of the military and every agency surrounding military has to, by mandate, submit additional budget requests for things that they want. Unfunded priority lists. Those priorities are not even vetted. So right now, we are looking at over $900 billion military budget. Right now, that's what we have to put forth. These unfunded priority lists will add $30 billion more to a military budget this year that is close to $1 trillion. So we are trying to get Congress to not stop the possibility of unfunded priorities, and not mandate it, because it totally de-strategizes, I made up that word, the effort of coming up with a sensible military budget. And our Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, he does his work, presumably checking with all the services to see what the needs are, rolls that one up, and then unbeknownst, without his control, all these different Air Force, Space Force, now that we have that, Navy, Army, they all have to come up with extra budget items, and they get put in front of Congress.
Is that in case Congress wants to allocate more money for defense, that there are ideas?
Well, there are many reasons. Okay, the question is this allowed or is this mandated in case Congress wants more things to be allocated to? What we've learned, it is a strategy for a member of Congress in a particular state to get some of their pet projects that wouldn't get agreed to in the national budget gives them a workaround. That makes no sense though. So anyway, that's what we've been lobbying on. We have a Ron Johnson Senate lobby visit coming up in later October. And if any of you, so this is my offer. So that's the topic this year. And again, it will likely, end in December. The other tricky thing right now, for letters to the editor and for lobby visits, this is not top of mind. I will admit this to you. This election is so top of mind for everybody that in a way I find it hard to even think that we're going to go talk about this. But we do it anyway. We do it anyway. It's one of those things where you do what's right even if there are obstacles, like a big election. So we will continue to meet with members of Congress through December, and then we'll go on to something else next year. But anyway, this is, so the opportunity for you, if this intrigues you, even if you don't want to join the team, would be to come experience a national call to see how much you learn. You learn so much about how Congress operates. You also learn about other parts of the world where our piece of legislation has connections, like the peace building funds connected to Africa and South America, where those funds could help navigate some of the warring factions. So anyway, but you can come to the national call, and that could be all you do, because we get you the link. You could come to the local call to see how we operate as a team and how we plan our letters to the editor, our lobby visits, because that's the purpose of the local meeting. Or you could just say, I would like to just sit in on a lobby visit, a Senate one, on Zoom, and just be there as what we call you a silent observer. And any one of, or you could say, this fits for me. I know this is right. I want to, the other thing, another little carrot, FCNL offers advocacy training online, a Zoom class. So you can actually learn how to be a good advocate, even if you don't want to be part of the team. You could also take part in advocacy training online. Excellent. Bruce.
I'm looking for an organization that I can affiliate with. I guess describe it as an anti-war stance. So much of what's going on, especially now in the Middle East, is one side or the other, like so many other things. But do you have some ideas of Milwaukee organizations that are really, whether you call it both sides or neither side, or anti-war?
Yes. The question is there an organization that I know of that really focuses on anti-war? Both sides, either side, no side, and I do. There is an organization called World Beyond War. So I'd be happy to talk a little bit more offline with you on that. But it's called, I believe their title now is World Beyond War, and that is their mission. Do you know of it? Do you want to speak to it?
I'm involved with them.
Great.
And they definitely are, as you say, anti-war. They work very closely. For example, I'm a member of Rotary, and we're not out there necessarily as an organization, but we also have a lot of anti-war activists that work. We actually have a partnership with World Beyond War.
And are you willing to share your name on Zoom in case people want to talk to you about World Beyond War?
Sure, my name is Jonathan Ward.
Jonathan Ward here in the audience knows of World Beyond War. He's aware of their work, and also Rotary, which that's not something everybody gets involved in, but he also says they do work broadly around anti-war. So if anyone wants to know more about connecting with Rotary and their work, or World Beyond War, Jonathan would be a great person to talk to.
Within Rotary International, we have action groups. So there's the Rotary Action Group for Peace that any Rotarian can become involved in on an international level. And it's actually that action group that has the relationship with World Beyond War. And then, I should mention also I'm a member of the Milwaukee chapter of Veterans for Peace. And you don't have to be a veteran to join Veterans for Peace. You can be an ally, anybody who's interested in ending war as a means of foreign policy execution. And if I could just mention, November 11th, every year, November 11th at City Hall in the evening, we have Reclaiming Armistice Day, which is about, we honor veterans, of course, but we feel that having renamed it Veterans Day in the United States has turned it into something that maybe glorifies war as opposed to, the original intention of Armistice Day was to end war.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, another plug for joining Veterans for Peace, even if you are not a vet. And again, talk to Jonathan if you'd like to know more about that. Yes, over there.
This is just a quick story for you to share when you're talking about these military budgets, the extra money. I was growing up, my dad was a doctor in an evacuation hospital. It was built out of Quonset huts. They had to put a budget like that together. They ordered brass doorknobs for all the doors in the Quonset huts.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any other questions? Yes.
So I was a member of the Citizens Climate Lobby for several years, and it's organized very much along the lines you're describing. And we would have these monthly meetings with some national presentations, and I really enjoyed those. And I was wondering if your organization has those recordings, and if people that aren't members of your group might be able to listen to them, because I find this topic of this unfunded priority bucket, because I've known about dark money and the military for years, and it seemed like such an important topic.
Yes, the question is, are these calls recorded? They are recorded, and you can get access to them, and you just let me know afterwards, and I can make sure you get sent at least 1 or 2 recordings from the past. Absolutely. Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, do you involve students in, any of these Zoom sessions, or do teachers?
Great question. Do we involve students or teachers? We do not specifically, but our team, like many committees, I'm sure you're always pushing to get younger people, because they often are made up of people who are, a little bit older and aren't going to be doing the work forever. So it's a good reminder. We really do need to reach out. We actually know that at UW Milwaukee there's a peace studies. It's not what it's called anymore. It might be called Sustainable Peace.
It's the Masters of Sustainable Peace
Thank
Building.
you. Well, you're quite the resource, gentlemen. Masters of Sustainable
Peace Building.
Peace Building.
Unfortunately, due to budget cuts, it's going to, that program by itself is not going to exist. However, they're going to continue with their peace building certificate at the undergraduate level, and they're also going to have a micro credential at the graduate level. So you take a few courses in peace
Because
building.
we were going to recruit from that class to our team. By the way, we do have a member, Vets for Peace. You might know Randy Bryce. He ran for office. Anyway, he's
Yeah,
going to
I
join.
know the name, yeah.
He's going to join our team. We wanted someone.
Okay, he's not really an active member of our chapter, but I know the name.
Yeah. All right. Is this time to end?
Oh, no, I only thought of something to do while you were talking, so I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but, no, please continue.
Just a few more
Yeah,
minutes.
sure.
I want to show you 2 handouts that's just a kind of a display that tells you more about our teams. This is a handout that's up there. It's advocacy teams. It's sort of one of those glossy how to start a team. I'm not asking you to start a team, I'm asking you to join a team. So front page, important. And then I have one of these that has my information. It says add or increase your lobbying skills. Again, trying to entice you to join us and use this as an addition to your activist toolkit. This is my name, phone number, and email address. So, and I would suggest, did I put my phone number? If you email me and I don't seem to respond to you, please call me. I, like you, get so flooded with emails that if I don't know somebody, if I don't know a name I'm not expecting, it might pass me by. So really, if you are interested to chat with me, I welcome it, but call me if I don't respond to the email. And again, there's a sign-in sheet, and the sign-in sheet could mean I want to go to a national call, hear a national call, I want to join. It doesn't have to mean anything in specific. You sign up, and I will reach out to you, and you can let me know what it is you are interested in. So, anything else? I think I've covered. Well, and again, we're working on those unfunded priority lists. Would love your support on that through the end of the year. Terry?
Did I understand you to say your year is actually a calendar year?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Our year is a calendar year, so December will be probably the last month that we work on unfunded priorities.
And my other question is, what's the process for getting a topic covered for next year?
The question is, by the way, what's the process for getting a topic? It sounds like Terry has an idea. She's wondering if she could help filter it up to, or I can help filter her idea up to the national office. Let me know what it is, and I'll see if there's a way I can help filter that. But I do want to say too, that, let's see, what was the first part of what you were saying?
What's the process?
What's the process? Again, the local teams will have input, so I'll be able to. I think you said something before that, though, that I wanted to.
Oh, just the year.
Yeah.
Just what the
Yeah.
year is.
Any other questions? Yes, Bernice, and then,
What if you have somebody join who has subversive intentions?
join the team?
Yeah.
What if we have someone join the team who has subversive intentions? That is so interesting. That's never happened since I've been involved in Milwaukee's team. But the national office has created this like team agreement, and it covers that kind of thing. So that led me to think some of the teams were having some struggle with some of the team members. So we have a process. I don't know what it is, and it hasn't happened yet in our team. Hope it doesn't. But yes, you have one more?
Yes. Could you say a little more about this military funding that's unvetted? What is the size of the military budget that's above ground, if you will? Is that decided by the Defense Committee, and then is the unvetted budget, does that not go through some Defense Committee?
Correct. It does not go through a committee. It goes directly to Congress, those lists. The other budget, which is over $900 billion submitted by our Secretary of Defense to the administration, that's what will come also in front of Congress for approval. So, yeah, that's the way it is.
If I could editorialize a bit on that, Eisenhower didn't want to just call it the military-industrial complex. He wanted to call it the military-industrial congressional complex, and oftentimes Congress will appropriate funds that the Defense Department didn't even ask for because it's good for their district or because one of their donors is lobbying directly for it. So there's a lot of the defense that does not even get requested by the defense.
Even without these UPLs. The other thing I wanted to mention is this UPL legislation has been brought forth in the House, and who is it? Tiffany? No, wait a minute, not Tammy Burrow. Who's a Democrat who is very liberal in the Senate? I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she has brought. No, she has brought this legislation on UPLs to the Senate. That's why we're meeting with our senators now, because you really can't lobby effectively when the legislation is not in that part of Congress. But Elizabeth Warren, yay, brain! Thank you, brain. Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren has brought this down from the Senate, so that's why we're using the next few months to shift from the House, because it's already been introduced, and now it's introduced in the Senate. So now we have something to work on for the rest of the year. So, well, I just want to say thank you all so very much. Your questions gave me an opportunity to say some of the things I didn't really write down to plan to say, but it was important to add those points. I am standing around for any of you that have additional questions. Again, I do hope that you'll sign up if you're interested. No pressure. If it's right for you, sign up and I'll be happy to be in touch with you.
I took the sign-up sheet from there because people were wanting to stop and look at the board, so I have the sign-up sheet.
I love that, Lorraine.
So that you don't.
I mean, Lee, thank you so much. And a big thank you to Lee for getting me in here, the chance, and for George for getting all the mechanics working, and Mark, you too. Thank you all. And I hope I get to see some of you, at least on Zoom with your face.
So
Thank
that
you.
you know about this being available. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you.